Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Dhamma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So where are we in our text? Get some light today. It's dark.
Number 166.
Let's see if I have to deal with this. Okay.
Siddhe dukkhitta ishtam syat Taschatischanta satmanaha mityabhimanato dukhi tenarthapada nakshamaha. The pure self might be freely imagined to be susceptible to pain if it were proved to possess it at all. One's identification with the body, etc., is the cause of the pain felt and is responsible for the idea that the self is susceptible to pain.
Yes. So here Shankara is dealing with two ideas. Of course, the bija vasana, the seed attachment, the seed identification is, I think I'm the body. But if you've been raised as a religious Hindu, you've been inculcated with the idea that, yes, I may not be the body, but what I am is the transmigrating soul. And I have thoughts and feelings and actions, and I go from body to body. Both are at best partial truths, relative realities. From the viewpoint of the woman or man of wisdom, no. It only seems like I feel pain, etc. It isn't I, it's the body. Again, this becomes easy to understand if we go to the dream state. You go to the dream state and you have some catastrophe in the dream. It's just my mind which has imagined this. But because of the ignorance of deep sleep, I don't know it. To the dreamer, it seems so real. Now, listen carefully. Knowing you are not the body does not make pain in the body go away. I just know it's not me. And what can happen, for most of us, we intensify physical pain by our instinctual resistance to it, trying to get away from it. And frequently, if we just let it be, it starts to morph and shift. Back in the old-timey days when they had the EST training, EST was the precursor to the forum, which is the precursor to landmark. And this fellow who started it was named Werner Erhard. One of the exercises he used to do in the EST training is he would ask if there was anybody in the audience who had a headache. And then he'd have them come up on the stage and sit on the stool. And he'd say, well, where is it? Locate it specifically. Well, it's right here on my right temple. Well, how big is it? Well, it's about the size of a 50-cent piece. Well, what color is it? Oh, it's kind of brown, you know. And he would keep having them just focus attention and describe and be attentive to the direct experience. And in less than 10 minutes, the headache would go away. Fascinating. Fascinating. But what do you and I do? Oh, no. Take my pill. Try to get away from the pain rather than being present. I'm not saying it always goes away. You cut yourself, it's not going to happen. But it shifts. It becomes simply a sensation. Any thoughts on this? Now, those of us who've done Vipassana retreats, you've done them, haven't you?
Yes.
So when pain arises in the body, what do?
Watch it.
And what happens to it?
It shifts, it changes.
I am not the pain, I'm the knower of the pain. All right, next verse.
I do have a question, actually.
Yes.
Could we say that it's the experience of pain is a matter of our attention, like where our attentive faculty, or more like identification is? Like the more that we are identified and our attention is on the body, the more pain we might feel. And
well, it's whether or not I'm emotionally attached, reacting, resisting, etc. So another way of dealing with pain. So you may have an ache or a pain in your body, and then all of a sudden you get engaged in a project or go listen to a concert. And your attention is drawn away from the body and you're not aware of the pain until the concert's over. Then your mind comes back toward the body. Oh, yeah, it still hurts. You know, is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very much so. All right, next verse.
Asparshopi yatha sparsham chalnadi cha अविवेकात् तथा दुःखं मानसं चात्मनिक्षते. Just as due to indiscrimination, touch and movement are felt to be in the self, which is devoid of them, so mental pain is also felt to be in it, owing to the same reason.
Yes. And here he's using this term asparsha, which he's borrowing from Gita. Asparsha, prichati means to touch. Asparsha means untouched. Now, my experience, people are, even in an ordinary state, far more able to deal with physical pain than mental suffering. When you hear about people shooting themselves or jumping off the bridge and things like that, it's rarely because they have a toothache. It's the mind. So we want to see the reactivity of the mind always in front of me. I am the knower of the mind's feelings, attachments, etc. Swamiji always used to say the way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind. Take on the meditation of Sakshi Bhava, the attitude or the feeling, recognition. I'm always the witness of it. And understand fundamentally what's causing the suffering of the mind. By and large, I'm upset because I didn't get what I wanted. So I can either fight and struggle with the world and its people to try to get what I want, or I can try letting go of compulsion. Let it be. Love that old Beatles song where the lyric goes, when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be. Enormous wisdom. That simple song. Let it be. Give up the compulsion to try to beat the world into submission. It doesn't mean we don't act. Of course we act. Doesn't mean we don't aspire to change the world for the better if that's given us to do. But let go of the results and don't let it rob us of peace of mind. There are people in the world who embrace their anger. They like their anger. It motivates them. Yogi, let the indignant people have their indignation. Yogi, I choose surrender. And in many ways, it really is a choice. This is what the Master Jesus meant when he said, my peace I give you, not that the world knows, a peace that is not of this world. Independent of circumstances. Any thoughts on this? as long as the mind, because of spiritual ignorance, is convinced I'm unhappy because of the world, we have no chance of serenity. It's like saying, I'm unhappy because there's a rainbow. What can I do? I'm going to get out my Uzi and shoot the damn rainbow. That damn rainbow is just pissing me off. And how effective is it to fight a rainbow? There's nothing substantially there. Seen, but not substantial. Now, don't believe me. Look to your direct experience. How has fighting the world worked out for you? How successful have you been? Next verse.
विवेकात्माधिया दुःखं विद्यते चलनादिवत् अविवेकस्वभावेन मनो गच्छत्यनिश्चितः तदानुदृश्यते दुःखं नैश्चल्येनैव तस्य तत् प्रत्यगात्मनि तस्मात् दुःखं नैवोपपद्यते. The pain due to the identification with the subtle body comes to an end when one has the discriminating knowledge that one is the innermost self, like the movements, etc., belonging to the gross body, which are negated when one knows that one is different from it.
Yes.
Unhappiness is seen in the self when the mind roams against one's will on account of ignorance, but it is not seen in it when the mind is at rest. It is therefore not reasonable that unhappiness is in the innermost self.
Yes, yes. Yes. Suffering is inherent in the craving mind. That's simple. How do I deal with kama, craving, spriha, longing? In my ignorance, I either try to change the world or I try to change me. And I'm under the throes of kartavya, obligatory action. And yoga says, how's that working out for you? Yoga says, drop it. Nobody has the power to make me feel it. Wonderful little mantra. All right, next verse. Can you folks on Zoom still hear me? Everybody's got their cameras off, and I'm wondering if we're having difficulties in transmission.
Not at all.
No,
Okay.
we can hear you, Jim.
Next verse.
Tvam sato stulya nidatvan nilashvat vadidam bhavet. The saying, thou art that, implies an indivisible reality. The words thou and that expressing the same reality indirectly, like the words blue and horse in the sentence, it is a blue horse.
Yes. So again, he's talking about the very famous Mahavakya, that thou art, you are that, tat tvam asi. So on its surface meaning, it seems impossible. How can I, Jim, be God? I have a hard enough time doing most things in life. I do not know an infinite number of things. I'm not omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. How can I be God? So we have to take the implied meaning. Classic exegesis is you have a physical body, the macrocosm has the jagat, the creation. You have a subtle body, the macrocosm has the total mind. You've got a causal body, your vasanas. The macrocosm has Ishvara, the total vasana. But at the core of your being, your very experience of I, is that witnessing consciousness. And the ground of being in which the whole universe rises and falls, which we call Brahman, they are the same thing. When you realize the self in you, you realize the self in all. Self in you is not a piece of Brahman. Self is indivisible. What fools me is the self is outside of dimension. Little old me, well, really, how big or small are you? So you have no size, no shape, no dimension. Time and space are in you. Or outside of it, you pervade time and space. Next verse.
Nirdukha vachina yogat tvam shabdasya tadarthata pratyagatmabhidhanena tacha shabdasya yutestatha. The word thou comes to mean one free from pain on account of its being used in the same predicament with the word that, which means one eternally devoid of pain.
So
Similarly,
go on.
Similarly, used in the same connection with the word thou, meaning the innermost self, which is directly known, the word that also comes to mean a thing directly known.
Yes. So, again, I am not the body, I am not the mind. I am Satchidananda, pure existence, pure consciousness, and no sorrow touches it. Now, one of the things that's implied here, that's the truth about me, but it's also the truth about everyone else. We have to be very careful with this knowledge, because to share this indiscriminately with others sounds like we're unfeeling, uncaring. What about all the people who are being murdered in Gaza? Actually, the self in them is not touched, whether they know it or not. Or as Ram Dass said towards the end of his life, even dying is completely safe. It's not a truth that we can share with most people because they see it as an unfeeling, uncaring. And it's not that. The other thing the yogi understands is that there's an intelligence that's in charge. First, there's a paradox there. St. Teresa said, Christ has no hands or feet on earth but yours. So we are part of the process. But the fundamental ground of being is never touched or engaged. It's all going to work out. Next verse.
Dashamasityevam vakyam syat pratyagatmani. The sentence, thou art that, produces the immediate knowledge of self-Brahman, like the saying, you are the 10th.
You are the what?
The 10th.
Oh, yes. So this is a reference to that old story, Hindu story. So 10 men are caught in a boat that's capsizing, crossing a river. And then they make their way to shore. So they want to say, are all of us here? We want to make sure that everybody survived. So they designate one person to count. So that person goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my gosh, there's only 9 of us. Well, maybe I miscounted. Here, you count. Somebody else goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my God, there's only 9 of us. Where's the 10th person? They forgot to count themselves. So this is what they're referring to. So you and I, we look at all the phenomena and we forget to notice such is the nature of spiritual ignorance that very few people, without the help of a teacher and the scriptures, ever think to earnestly inquire into the nature of I. There's just the tacit assumption, I'm the body plus the personality. That's who I am. But we don't think to apply viveka, discrimination between the seer and the seen. knower and the knower. See if in fact I am the body. I am. This is only accomplished in a quiet mind, following along those directions of inquiry put forward in the scripture, put forward by the teacher. There are rare souls who come to that without it, but they are, in fact. Next verse.
Sarthasya Hyaprahanena Vishishtartha Samarpakau Pratyagatma Pagatyanto Nanyortho Artho Virodhyataha. Without giving up their own meanings, the words thou and that deliver by implication a special one, resulting in the knowledge of self-Brahman. They do not express any other meaning contrary to it.
So, the proper understanding of that thou art, Tattvamasi, is not any other way of interpreting it. It's not about making the ego very big. It's not about gluing the self onto Brahman. I'm going to merge with Brahman like an amoeba eating something. No. The proper way to interpret it is to discriminate. The scriptures suggest what we just talked about. All right, going on.
Navabuddhya Paharati Satmanam Dashapuranam Apashyantyatume Savamadmanam Janastatha Avidya Baddhachakshushva Vatkama Pashittadhi Sada Viviktam Rishimatmanam Nekshate Dashamam Yatha. Just as misled by the number 9, the 10th boy did not know himself to be so, and wanted to know who the 10th was. So one does not see one's own self, the witness, though detached from the non-self, and self-evident on account of one's eyes being covered by ignorance and intellect captivated by desires.
So here it is the ignorance that occludes my perception so that I cannot see, oh, I am other than any of the phenomena. I am not knowable through the known instruments of perception. Those of us studying the Kena Upanishad on Saturday mornings, he who knows it as an object doesn't know it. The person who unknows the mind. So this is one of the greatest traps in people studying Vedanta by themselves as a scholarly pursuit. We begin to learn about the self as an idea, as something other than me. What do you think about the self? Well, this is what I think about the self. As if we're talking about some third entity. What do you think about the president? Well, what do I think about the president? The president is somebody other than you and me. Talk about the self in that way does nothing to free us. Oh, I'm hoping someday I can know the self. Doesn't work. And we can spend years and years and years in that state. So what the teacher does usually holds up an object. Who sees the phone?
I do.
That's yourself. We start with that direct experience. Maybe you've read teachings, oh, I have a higher self that I'm going to channel. You don't have bunches of selves. You have bunches of ideas about yourself. Who are you? What's your experience of I? It's me. That's yourself. My problem is I've never clearly investigated it. In the quiet mind, turn the attentive faculty inward. I start with this practice. If it occurs in time and space, if it has a form, if it has qualities and characteristics, if it's in the waking, dream, or deep sleep state, and most importantly, if it is knowable, that isn't it. And people not grasping that can be deluded for years. Back when I had my center in the city, there was a delightful young man, earnest yogi. And 10, 20 years earlier, he had had an acid trip and he was convinced he realized the self for a moment on acid. And he kept trying to get back there. And he didn't realize who is it who's aware of the mind, yearning for some experience. I am. That's yourself. Not whatever mind state you experienced 20 years ago. That can't be it. You are an eternal actor. You cannot be gained. You cannot be lost. You cannot be acquired. You cannot be achieved. You can only, in your mind, realize that you are what you've always been. But because of ignorance, we get nothing new. Any thoughts on this? Now, we do get something. We get some peace when in my mind I realize that. I like to use the example, so you inherit $1 million from an unknown relative. You're a wealthy person. But I think, oh my God, I'm out of money. It's not true, it's not real, but I cannot enjoy it because I don't know about it. So it's the knowledge of its value that's important. That's what we get. And then the knowledge of the value of the self. One frees us from this existential fear. It's all okay. And I finally found out what happiness is. Happiness is letting go of compulsion to crave, to want, to fix. Take it easy. All right, next verse.
दशमस्त्वमसीत्येवं तत्त्वमस्यादिवाक्यतः स्वमात्मानं विजानाति कृत्स्नान्तः करणे क्षणम्. One knows oneself, the witness of the intellect, and all its modifications, from sentences such as, thou art that, like the boy who knew himself from the sentence, you are the 10th.
Yes. So back to our story about the boys in the boat, and he's going, counting up to 9, where's the 10th? So someone comes along and says, my dear, yes, you can count the 9 boys, but you are the 10th. Oh, it's me. I didn't think of that. Likewise, the value of the Guru, the value of the scriptures is what you're looking for. You're looking with. It's my very self. Investigate. See whether or not you change. See whether or not you get cast into some abyss and cease to exist. See whether or not you ever have any qualities or characteristics. Nope. Still the space of consciousness. But we have indirect knowledge. When I hear it from the scriptures of the teacher, oh, that's so nice. I wish it were true. But I'm a basket case. Are you? Discriminate between the knower and the known. See whether or not you are always Chidakash, space of pure awareness. Next one.
Idam purvamidam paschat padam vakyam bhavediti अन्वयव्यतिरेकाभ्यां ततो वाक्यार्थबोधनं वाक्ये हि श्रूयमाणानां पदानामर्थ संस्मृतिः नियमो नैव वेदेऽस्ति पदसाङ्गत्यमर्थता. The understanding of sentences is possible on the knowledge of the implied meanings of the words by the method of agreement and contrariety after it has been ascertained which words should be placed first and which next. For the order of words in Vedic sentences follows the meaning of the sentences. The rule about remembering the meanings of words in accordance with their order in which sentences are construed does not hold good in the Vedas.
So this is dealing with grammar. And the idea here is don't get hung up on syntax. The good news about Sanskrit is the meaning of the word, its position is determined by its ending, not by its order. So, for example, we could say, John threw the ball to Billy. If you change the word order, the ball threw Billy to John. Makes no sense. Billy threw John to the ball. Makes no sense. The syntax, the word order, is what's important. So you could say tat tvam asi, but you could say, you could change the word order and the meaning is the same. How do we understand its deep meaning? We understand what is to be rejected and what is to be retained. When we say you and that, the ordinary meaning is you, the individual, and that meaning God. But we have to plunge deeper and find the implied meaning. We say you, we mean the core of your being. We say God, we don't mean any form. We mean the ground of being of the whole universe. All right, next verse.
Yada nityeshu vakyeshu padarthastu vivichyate vakyartha jnana sankranti tada prashno na yujyate. The question is out of place when the meanings of words in sentences having fixed meanings are made clear in order that the meanings of sentences may be comprehended.
So what we need to do when we study the Mahavakya, the saying, is come to the real meaning of the words. You don't have to fuss with the grammar. All we need to do is understand the deep significance of the words. Then they become clear. This is the value of a teacher who's able to say, it's not the exoteric understanding. There's an esoteric understanding of the meaning. That's all. This is why it's usually pointless for a person to read Hindu scripture by themselves without a teacher or at least a very good commentary. Because we're apt to superimpose our own delusion. Over and over. And I love what Shankara says. He says, without knowledge of the self, study of the scriptures is futile. Then the next sentence in that verse, with knowledge of the self, study of the scriptures is again futile. for the woman of knowledge, she's become an Upadesha. So what's the purpose of the scripture? Scripture is a setu. It's a bridge. There's a gestalt that takes place. The teacher, the student, and then the bridge of the scripture allows the supreme vision to move from the teacher to the student. Come see how I see. Be there, as Father Jesus. So in our study of the scripture, if this gestalt is working right, who gets tuned up, begins to have the direct experience of their self-nature. Tell them what they're experiencing while they're experiencing. That's the pramana, the Shabda pramana of Vedanta transmission. Any thoughts about this? If it's done effectively, in the subtle mind, you get, oh, see, nobody there. I am that space of consciousness. Where did my ego go? Gone. Just before I thought I was a person, and now it's gone. Next verse.
Anvayam yatirekoti padartha smaranayatu smritya bhave na vakyartho gyatum shakyo hi kenachit. The method of agreement and contrariety is spoken of in order that one may be acquainted with the implied meanings of words. For no one can know the meaning of a sentence without knowing the meaning of the words in it.
So here they're again talking about grammar. I wouldn't get too hung up on all this. But even today, many of us get confused. We start yearning to have siddhis, powers. We think that's what spirituality is about. And having siddhis or powers is not a whole lot different than having muscles. You see some woman or some guy who's got all buffed, or you watch gymnastics, see these people doing all these marvelous things. That's all these occult powers, like flying through the air, reading minds, being able to see what's happening at a distance in meditation. The fact is, the human mind is capable of much more than most of us think. It's like when you go to the ballet and you see the ballerina put her leg up next to her ear. Can you or I do that? No. But the human body is capable of doing that with practice. So all those occult powers are. They of themselves do not bring peace. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
तत्त्वमस्यादिवाक्येषु त्वं पदार्था विवेकतः व्यज्यते नैव वाक्यार्थो नित्यमुक्तो हमित्यतः अन्वयात्यतिरेकोक्ति स्ताद्विवेकाय नान्यथा त्वं पदार्थ विवेके हि बाणावल्पित बिल्वत वाक्यार्थो यज्यते चैवं क्षेत्रलोहं पदार्थतः दुःखीत्येतदपोहेन प्रत्यगात्मविनिश्चयात्. The meaning of the sentences like "thou art that," i.e., one is Brahman, ever free, does not become manifest on account of the non-discrimination of the implied meaning of the word thou. Therefore, it is for the purpose of discriminating the meaning of that word, and for no other purpose, that the method of agreement and contrariety has been described. For when the meaning of the word thou is discriminated, one becomes perfectly sure of the nature of the innermost self by the negation of the ego connected with unhappiness from the meaning of the word I, and then the meaning of the sentence vis-a-vis one indivisible pure consciousness becomes manifest, like an aglamarmalose fruit placed on one's palm.
I have no idea what that fruit is. So, we have the four great Mahavakyas, one from each one of the Vedas. Prajnanam Brahma, Brahman is consciousness. Ayam Atma Brahma, this self is Brahman. Tattvamasi, you are that. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Of the four, the third, Tattvamasi, is known as the Upadesha Mahavakya. Upadesha means to instruct or to teach. This is the traditional understanding. So all of the various practices of yoga are implied by Tattvamasi. And here, what Shankara is saying is, how do we use this Mahavakya? It is Upadesha, it's teaching, it's instruction. And he says you can't just take it at face value. You have to understand that it implies discrimination. It implies isolation. The beginning, it starts in our meditation. The mind has been stilled to some degree. And start with a practice like, oh, I can hear the sound of the traffic outside. I am the knower of the traffic. I am not the traffic noise. I go to the body itself. Take a deep breath. I'm aware of the breath in the body in the same way that I was aware of the sound of the traffic. Subject, object. I am not the body. What's my energy level like? About medium. It's high, it's low, it's medium. Ever my pranamaya kosha is, I know it. Go to my feelings, joy, sorrow, irritation, peace, anger, wonder. Whatever the feelings are, one feeling doesn't know another feeling. I know them all. Comfortable ones and uncomfortable ones. I know my feelings just like I know the sound of the traffic. They are objects of cognition. I am not my feelings. You go to the realm of thought. Your head, do the problem 2 plus 2. Remember what you had for dinner last night. That place is your intellect. In that intellect, there's a special, unique kind of thinking called ahankriti. I make her thoughts. I'm good, I'm bad, successful, I'm failure, loving, horrible. You, so I am fill in the blank. But I know these. Go to work and everything's working out. You have the thought, I am successful. Next day you go to work and it's a shit show. I am a failure. But I know that. I know the ego thoughts. I am not the thoughts. I know the thoughts just like I know the sound of the train. But those I maker thoughts, the ahankriti, are so close to the self, so hard to discriminate. If I can do that to some degree in meditation, then when I'm out in the world, I practice it. When an upset arises, oh, look at that. I got really upset. No, I didn't get upset. The mind reacted to that situation. Everybody knows. Constantly practicing. This is known as jnana abhyasa. Practice. And I will tell you what's going to happen as you've set your intention on liberation. The universe will bring to you exactly the experiences where we need to do discrimination. Person comes and get all upset and angry, and you don't discriminate. Don't worry, the Lord will bring it by again and again and again for lifetimes. Run, but you cannot hide until you let it go. Until I see it for what it is. And I promise you, at least that experience will no longer agitate you, and it will probably quit coming up. Most of us. That's the process. All of that is implied in this Upadesha, this instructional saying. All right, one more.
Tatraivam sambhavatyarthe shrutahana shrutarthadhiha naiva kalpayitum yukta padavakyartha kovideha. Those who are well versed in the meanings of words and sentences should not, therefore, assume a meaning which is not in accordance with the Shrutis, and give up what is in them. For this explanation of the sentence is thus possible.
So, let me give you another one that implies what he's talking about. So, when we study Mandukya, the scripture says Om is divided into four quarters, A, U, M, and silence. A stands for the waking state, U stands for the dream state, M for the deep sleep state, and the silence stands for the Turiya, the fourth. People who do not understand the proper way of interpreting this think, oh, the fourth plane of consciousness. I'm going to go whack-a-doodle into some state. I've been rocketed into the fourth dimension, the fourth plane of consciousness. Turiya. Is that what it means? Is that what it means? The Turiya means yourself. Ever the knower of the waking dream and deep sleep. It's called the fourth because it's fourth in the number of discussion. First we discuss then ooh, then now we're going to discuss the fourth one, meaning yourself. So a misunderstanding of the proper way to interpret scripture and create confusion. Same with prophecy. There's a proper way of understanding its meaning. That this whole section's been talking about. All right, we'll end here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.